Good evening, family. Good evening. Good evening. As you can see, it's Spacely and Bro Elliott in this thing.
Yeah.
And we doing something different
Just a
today.
little different. Just a little different.
A little different. We're gonna do
Yeah.
something every Tuesday.
Yeah.
We're gonna bring what people call conspiracies. We just gonna see what y'all think. And we're gonna get this as I call them the professor. We're gonna get it from the professor on what's really going on.
Yeah. So, good evening, family. Thank you very much. I appreciate that and appreciate you all joining us today. Um, we might as well just jump right into it.
Are you ready to jump
Let's
into it?
jump into it.
All right, I'm gonna
Oh,
put this
hold
first.
on. Hold that first.
Gotcha.
Don't hold that. But I want to give us some background first.
Okay, give it
All right.
background.
So we're gonna go to let's go back to some older, more ancient conspiracies and ideologies. And I want y'all to hold them or write your notes down or whatever you need to do in order to keep up with them as we try and work at connecting the dots. Because this is a big, big puzzle with only a few pieces and a few players on the table. All right.
Mhm.
So the first piece that I want to talk about before we get into moving forward, because it's all connected. Right. So we're going to be going back and forth.
Mhm.
Right. So if you've never heard of the Knights Templar,
Mhm.
Templar is a group of men who are knights and fighters who are commissioned by the Catholic Church to help, quote unquote, ferry people from where the Church of England is over to the Holy Land, right?
Mhm.
Now, they did this in the 12th century, right around 1118 BC. So it was their job to protect the pilgrims from marauders who were on their way to make their pilgrimage to the Holy Land.
Mhm.
They also became a force. I got you, Pastor. They also became a force during the Crusades. So they also, even though they took these vows of poverty and chastity and all of this other stuff, they were they did some other things on the low behind people's backs and all this other stuff, right? So they became a force during the during the Crusades, amassing considerable wealth and power. They so much so they controlled castles and land in both the Levant and across Europe. So the Levant is going to be considered what they call the Middle East, where Jerusalem is, which is no such thing as the Middle East. I see Winters over there throwing a little shot. Okay, there's no such place as the Middle East. Because if you look at a real map, the Middle East is in the middle of the ocean, whereas the middle of where they call the Eastern and the Western Hemisphere. So keep that in mind too. So the first thing is the Knights Templar. The second, what their job was. And third, there's no Middle East. But here's what the deal is with the Knights Templar. They developed a very sophisticated financial system. Now, remember what we just said.
Mhm.
Okay. We just said that they took a vow of poverty, they took a vow of charity, which means we're going to do stuff for people. They took a vow of chastity, which means they wouldn't sleep with people because they were attached to the Catholic Church, right?
Mhm.
Okay. And they became Europe's first international bankers. Now, in the 1300s, because of their power, one of the kings, was a king or pharaoh or whatever, we got to get his name, escapes me right now. I'll make sure I have it the next time. Okay. Yeah, that's right, when they built the Suez Canal. You got it. Uh, they said that this group of people had too much power. And so they went on a campaign to destroy them. And they did. They disbanded the they tortured them and disbanded them to make sure that they were, oh, well, you got to confess that you did some things that you didn't do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But none of the money was ever found. So you disbanded the group, so to speak. And many of those men went underground and became part of other organizations somewhere else,
Mm.
where they would go and hire themselves out to fight as marauders or whatever. So those that didn't get caught, when they found out that they were getting caught and prosecuted, it was like, okay, look, we're not really going to be, we work for the church. So we're really trying to go out here and get offed because people fear our power. You know, we got a problem. So we're gonna go underground. If anybody knows what the Holy Grail is, it has two or maybe three different meanings, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first meaning was the golden chalice that Jesus the Christ took drinks of and passed along to his disciples at the Last Supper. The second meaning is that one escapes me because it's not important, because it's a very minor meaning. But the other one was at the crucifixion of the Christ, one of the Roman soldiers took a spear, jabbed Jesus the Christ in the ribs, and used this cup in order to catch the blood that came out, which then turned that cup into something more magical than what it was. So therefore, he hides the cup, but it's supposed to be full of blood, and the blood stays liquid instead of drying out. There's all of these other stories around the golden chalice.
Mm.
Then what they call the Holy Grail. Then it disappears. Then it had been said that some of the Knights Templar got back together in secret to make sure that they found the Holy Grail, to make sure that they didn't fall in the hands of the Illuminati or the Rosicrucians, who become more known later on. Now, keep that in mind, because that's very important as we move forward and start to talk about some names and some people and some other events that take place in the world. All right. So understand that money's still floating around here all of this time later on. That was 1100. This is 2000. That's over 1,000 years ago. Now, thank you very much, sir. Got a few people here that are commenting.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thanks, Trevor. Pastor Gaddis, good evening. Appreciate that.
I do like how you set the premises up what we about to go into.
Right. Because we have to look at the background.
Facts.
So we can't talk about these families,
Mm-hmm.
That may or may not have started out with money already, when you have to understand that this group of people set up a international financial system. Okay. And so you're talking about, if we're talking about 1118 BC AD, I'm sorry, 1118 AD, then the slave trade starts in 1441. Written by Pope Nicholas I as a papal bull that says, because certain people, they don't believe like you, you can go and bring them back to Jesus, bring them back to Christ. Right? But even way before that, the church was taken away from its original place and pulled by force into Rome. Okay. So now we got a bunch of different stuff going on. The Knights Templar by the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church is where? It's in Rome.
Mm-hmm.
325 AD, the Council of
Vatican.
Nicaea. So y'all got to get y'all paper and pencil out to start connecting the dots now. You got to be writing this stuff down. All right. So you got 325 AD. Knights Templar commissioned by the Catholic Church. When their power gets so great, and people in the church and in the state have a problem in 1300s, 1330, 1323, they go on a campaign to destroy the Knights Templar. Meanwhile, you have the Rosicrucians and the Illuminati that claim what? That they were searching for the Holy Grail.
Mm-hmm.
But the most important point before all of that is there's money.
Mm.
And there's big money. It ain't chump change. It ain't a little bit of money. It's big money that nobody has found in that time. And then so therefore, if some of the Knights Templar decided that they're going to go underground, you didn't get everybody and kill everybody. You killed a few of us. You made us confess because you used your Dungeons and Dragon tactics in order to make us confess to some things. Now we're going to go underground and we're going to start to form other things. So we have to remember that's the premise of how we're going to move forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to mention some names or mention something, a phrase, and you all are going to have to do some research. It's called the Divine Nine. Okay. The oldest one started in 1904, and I think it was mentioned in that piece by Brother Steve Coakley, rest his soul,
Mm-hmm.
was Sigma Pi Phi, started by some doctors and lawyers, and one was a pharmacist. So it was like 7 or 9 people. I have to go back and and they even have a magazine called the Boule that I believe they still produce.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Wow.
So all of your major families, right? The Rothschilds, the Bilderbergs, the Carnegies, all of these people are tied in one way, shape, or form, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were the Masons. Let me give a real quick tip about what y'all think about the Masons, right? One of the things about the Masons is that they started in ancient Kemet because all of those wonderful, grandiose statues were not built by slaves as is told in the Bible. That is a lie. You have artisans who went to school. What did we say before? You have 33 years to become a master mason, right? I have 30 years of teaching. I'm still got 3 more years before I can become a master teacher. How long you been doing this, big brother Mick?
Oh man, listen, I got so much time to go. 2020.
Okay, so he started in 2020. It's 2025. You still got 18 years to go.
Man,
28 years to go.
Facts.
Before he becomes a master videographer. If we go by the ancient system, that you have to go through the training in order to become at this level, right? So again, since we're gonna now don't forget the Knights Templar have money that they put away.
Facts.
Okay. They've developed a secret international banking fund. So even if they took a vow of poverty, what they probably did, and this is just my speculation, is said, hey, in order for you got to pay a fee in order to get from one part of the world to the other part, in order not to be bothered with the marauders as we go from the Levant to the Holy Land. How else would you make your money? Okay. Let me throw this tidbit in there too. I know many of you in your studies, and hopefully you're doing so, have heard of the New World Order. So there are two ideologies that are out there in the world.
gatekeepers.
Hold on, I messed that up.
No, you
So you
good.
go ahead. No, I was trying to upload it. You good? Go ahead.
Okay, so the first one is NAFTA,
Mhm.
North American Free Trade Agreement, which is all of North America, all the way to South America, and the European Union. So the currency in Europe is supposed to be all one currency.
Mm-hmm.
If that doesn't sound like some new world order, I don't know what is.
Thanks.
So the same thing here in America, in North America, Canada, North America, Canada, United States, Mexico, Central America, South America, all one umbrella with one coin and one money. Okay, so y'all got to keep these facts in mind. All right.
And this is just the first one. We gonna go back over it.
Yep, we gonna
I just found it interesting. I was looking on on YouTube. I'll be finding different stuff, but we're gonna talk about it and then we're gonna get back. Let me play it now.
We got to connect to that. But go ahead on.
Sure.
They do. The definition of a gatekeeper is an attendant at a gate who is employed to control who goes through. And the second definition is a person or thing that controls access to something.
Pause that right there.
The Boule is said to.
Okay, so remember,
keepers.
Got it. Go ahead.
Okay, so remember we talked about that before, right? During the last show, we talked about. Leave that up right there.
I got you.
Okay, well we talked about that before, right? What a gatekeeper is, and y'all went out and did your homework and found the definitions on your own. You did an excellent job. Now, look at this symbol right here. I wish we could make it big. Can we make it bigger?
Nah, I have to upload. Yeah,
that's okay.
Gotcha.
That symbol right there, according to another group of people, is supposed to be the symbol of the Boule. And there's a basketball player, according to what they've shown. I could be wrong. It could be something that they photoshopped that has that on his chest. Okay. There's a basketball player that has that on his chest. If you have that symbol on you anywhere, that means you're a member of this particular society.
Facts.
Now, just saying, this is what they're telling us. This is they say how this go. Yeah, we're trying to connect some dots, but continue.
For sure. Let me get back to it.
Of the Black community. The Boule is made up of members of Sigma Pi Phi fraternity. It is the first Greek letter society for African American men, and it was founded in 1904. As a point of reference, Booker T. Washington had founded the National Negro Business League in 1900 to promote the interests of African American businesses. And the main purpose of his organization was to promote commercial and financial development of Black businessmen and women. It is important to note that Booker T. Washington's organization was open to women. It was established in 1900, so we have to know that there was a lot of discrimination against women at that time, but he did include women because he understood that in order for the African American people to advance, it was going to take both men and women. The Boule was only open to men, college-educated men. The Boule only accepts membership from men who are already successful in business.
Right.
They don't have chapters on college campuses. However, they have a congenial relationship with Black fraternities. As in, they are very welcoming to members of Kappa Alpha Psi, Omega Psi Phi, Alpha Phi Alpha, Phi Beta Sigma, and Iota Phi Theta. So these two business networks, the National Negro Business League and the Boule, were established to help African Americans network in business, commerce, education, politics, whatever the case would be, because the established white associations were not available to them. They were not open to them. The distinction should be made that the National Negro Business League was open to any African Americans that were active in business, pursuing business ventures, whereas the Boule offered membership to professional people, college graduates. Booker T. Washington and Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois were sort of adversaries at this time. And Booker T. Washington, of course, belonged to the Negro Business League, and Dr. Du Bois was an early member of the Boule.
Yep.
Also, Booker T. Washington
Disappointed
was
me.
very
I
supportive
was disappointed
of
about that
Black
when
Wall
I heard
Street
that.
in Tulsa. So that has to be noted. To know what the Boule does is to know who the members are. And this is a small list of men that did belong to the Boule. Dr. W.E.B. Du
Pause
Bois,
that.
author,
Just not to us.
professor, and activist.
Got you.
Okay. Let me so Mr. Colson, I promise you, we're gonna get a show on just for you. But you better have your facts when you come. Don't come on here on some old silly stuff that you're trying to come up here on. So because you're trying to follow what we're doing and not what you're trying to do. Don't take them off though, because if you say something else, you're gonna get it. Because follow what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to talk about some truthful things. This is a little bit different show than the show that we do on Sundays, right? But it's connected, right?
Mhm.
So, okay. So let me make this point. Europeans in this country developed all sorts of organizations, trade unions, whatever, Masonry, whatever, right? So in the Masonic order, they created the Masonic Shriners, all of whatever levels that they have. And they have two rights, the Scottish rights and the British rights. Number one, it's a fraternity. No problem. Prince Hall, who wanted to be part of the fraternal order, was denied to be part of them. And so therefore he created his own fraternal order of the Prince Hall Masons. Every fraternal order that is in this world doesn't tell someone else what it's doing.
Facts.
Okay. We're the only group of people that if me and brother Mick and brother Trevor and brother Pastor Gaddis is standing over here talking, women want to know what we're talking about. It's none of your business. We're talking about men stuff. And I'm not being disrespectful to women. Because we're not trying to sit over there while y'all talking about whatever y'all talking about as women folk and find out what y'all talking about because it's none of our business. We're the only group that people get upset with a bunch of men are hanging by themselves and talking about stuff. What y'all talk about? It is none of your business. We're talking about men business, whether it be sports, whether it be how we gonna build the shed, whether it be some BS. It's our business. Stay out of it. With Booker T. Washington, when he did his organization, he wanted to include everybody for the advancement. Okay. He wanted to include everybody for the men and women both when he created the Negro Business League, I think it was called, in 1900. When Sigma Phi Rho, Sigma Phi Pi, or Sigma Pi Phi, Sigma Pi Phi was created in 1909. They were denied to be part of another organization. They created their own. And even in this day today, it's only got about 1,000 members, and they select who they want to have in on purpose. But you already have to be a professional. You already have to have certain credentials. And even probably, and I'm just speculating this part, you have to even have certain level of income in order to be invited into their group. Like I said earlier, they have a magazine or a booklet that they put out called the Boule.
Facts.
So now part of what the Boule's position is a filter. Okay, a filter. A filter catches some stuff and lets some stuff through. We know that. All right.
Right.
Oh, I see your sister's only talking about what's men's business, building society. That's what men's business is. So, okay, I understand why you're dancing over here. We love you, but okay. Yes, we understand that, Miss Maria. But if you have a group of men over here talking about stuff, it's not your job to come over here and talk with the group of men because we're talking and we're talking about stuff that's amongst us that are our problems, that are our situations and issues. This that doesn't concern you. Just like if you get a bunch of women sitting over there talking, you don't want no man coming over there sit up there with y'all. Back in ancient times, like if you ever get a chance to go to Africa, and you go to somewhere where it's a fairly traditional and since y'all want to open this door, I'm gonna walk in it for you, a fairly traditional part of the society. The men sit with men and talk about men stuff, the women sit with women, talk about women stuff, and the children sit with, if we have dinner, the men eat with each other, the women will eat with each other, and the children eat with each other. That's traditional societies. I don't need to sit around here and talk to a woman about a problem that I can talk to a man about to do certain stuff about what men talk about because we have different problems than women do. But anyway, back to what we was talking about.
For sure.
So now, because we'll be talking about that all day because folks want to argue stuff that, yeah. Anyway, I
For
see
sure.
Winters over there trying to throw jabs. What's going? Stop playing because we ain't talking about that.
Facts. I'm trying to get like to the book because this one.
Let's get back on. Go ahead.
Let
Go
me
ahead.
do the last
This
part.
Dr. Martin Luther King, civil rights leader, Ralph Bunche, ambassador to the United Nations, Andrew Young, mayor of Atlanta, ambassador to the United Nations and civil rights leader, Douglas Wilder, governor of Virginia, Thurgood Marshall, Supreme Court Justice, Eric Holder, Attorney General of the United States under President Obama, John Lewis, a congressman from Georgia, and Kenneth Chenault, who was the CEO of American Express. These are African American leaders. They come from all walks of life, from politics, government, education, and business. They are called the gatekeepers of the African American community. I will read their mission statement, and then I can discuss what I know that some of these organizations do that these men belong to in addition to the Boule. Their statement says that they are modeling leadership, education, and civic responsibility by supporting these endeavors and by mentoring the young men who will advance the African American community in all facets of equality, mutual respect, and devotion to democratic traditions. Also, in their historical information, they say that in the early years of Sigma Pi Phi, they were a secret organization, but in 1982 they adopted a policy of limited and selected publicity, and that usually has to do with money. When you open your organization up in ways like that, it's usually to do with the fact that money.
Okay.
Take that off.
No, that's good.
Yeah, and I was done anyway. That was it on that one. I put the next one. We get
Okay.
to that one about Steve Coakley.
Yeah, no, yeah.
But now that's some of the stuff that you can see because, like, in this next one, like as you can see with these Masons fires, because it was a video 2 hours. I was trying to find shorter clips. I know we're gonna be on this for probably down there a month. Tuesdays trying to break this down, then going off into the next one. But as you can see, I think what W.E.B. Du Bois, what they wanted it as, like they started including everybody. It was to help the advancement of of the color at during that time as we was considered color. I think it was, but I think it got off. Oh yeah, facts, concrete jungle. This was an older one. This ain't. I mean, I found it on YouTube from TikTok, but yeah, I'm gonna try to get where they get more. They talking about the probably the last 5 years of them or whatever. Far as who the new members are. I mean, far as the new ones who are here. But all you got to go do is look and see who they putting out in the front. That was just a little short summary. I think this next video we finna get into, this a little longer. It's like 10 minutes, and we'll stop and we'll be going through it. I want to give a shout. I think it's Boss Lady who I got that from. I seen it on the YouTube page, but Stephen Coakley he giving you a summary of a rundown, and I think this video is like 16, maybe 16 years ago. Brother B, I don't know. I can't vouch and say that what you just said is true. He'll tell you he ain't in that. Now that
he into Scientology.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna say no. You cool because I can defend that when we breaking that down. Far as what he said, some of his members
right
who did some of that, but I'm not gonna hold that against the man for what he. I'm not.
You're trying to advance people's spirituality.
Yeah, so, but what the thing of it is, what we mess up at, what we get confused as a race of people, we don't be understanding even some of that technology. If you go look at where he said he got it from, that was it's 50,000 years of what he was talking about of history. All this stuff that these people be coming with when they even come down, say the 48 laws of power. If you go look at it, they borrowed it from the black man regardless. They just put a different face on it. Right. I think that's what we get, and it become watered down want to get it because we always looking to go see what somebody else did. We got to do it this way. Do people really understand how big the continent, how big Africa is? Right. Just because you on one side, that don't mean if you got this from on this side, how they might be doing it on the other side. Right. That's what I think we kind of get. Because you got the Dogon tribe that ain't nobody talking about. You got all these different tribes. We just pick a side we went to, and that's it. No, you know what I'm saying? Even with masonry, like they say, 33 degrees, that's when you get it, but that's only enough to freeze water. It's 360 degrees of knowledge in the universe. Right. So how is 33 degrees? You know what I'm saying? That's where the foolishness coming in. And if you even go study masonry, don't that go back to King David or King Solomon?
It goes before that. So it's ancient Kemetic.
That's right? What I'm saying.
So if you're building pyramids and you're building temples and you're carving these elaborate carvings out of stone and things like that, you don't have that foolish notion that slaves that were owned by Ramesses II did it is a lie. That's number one.
Yeah, I mean, look who's telling the story.
No, of course. So when you rewrite the story, you can tell it how you want to because you're telling it for your advantage, right?
Yeah.
So. And it was, if you became part of the group of builders and architects and artists, right? If you were an artist and you painted the Meta Nature, you and your family, you did that, your family did that. You didn't know, and it was called a mystery school because the mystery is that's your job, right?
Right.
There are traditional societies that exist even today in Africa that women are initiated to almost from birth that men know nothing about. And there are traditional societies that men are initiated to almost from birth that women know nothing about.
Yeah.
Because there are things that they have to do. Only here do we go through this thing where folks got to know what other people are. But anyway, let's get back to the gatekeepers, right?
Yeah. But I'm saying, as you can see that some of going on here.
Right, absolutely.
That's why I was just using this as a gateway.
Right, yeah. Because what it is about how are people operating in the best interest of the
welcome
total
to Southern California, KPFK, Brother Steve Coker.
Hey, good evening, brother.
One of our great researchers that have exposed the Boule, a phenomenon that most of us in the movement never knew about until you brought light, took the sheets off of these Negro Klan members and explained to us what the Boule is all about. So what we'd like you to do is tell us the history of the Boule, who the Boule are, their origins, and the relationship to the ruling class.
Thank you, brother. I would thank you for hosting me and my friends here and appreciate you and all your company. Everybody's excessively intense, and that is the demand of the day. This secret society, this particular black secret society that we'll talk about today is the first of the black Greek societies, started in 1904, and that word that you said.
There we go.
Okay. So original fraternities were started in ancient Kemet. When the Greeks came over, before they went back and became, I want y'all to understand how this goes before we get here. When the Greeks came and became Ptolemies and so-called pharaohs or whatever, when the civilization was on its last legs, they started fraternal organizations as well. Took them back to Greece.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Took them back to Greece. Thank you, Brother B. We appreciate that. You're absolutely right.
My granny was one.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
See? And somebody in my family was a Mason.
I got a couple uncles.
See? Now, the thing is they do stuff. And what happens, what the deal is, and what people are upset at is at the very beginning of when we couldn't get into their clubs, right?
Mm-hmm.
1802. Let me back up a little bit further. Black people were going to church in Philadelphia. White people didn't like them being there. They ended up getting thrown out of the church. And Reverend Richard Allen and Reverend Absalom Jones built Big Mama Bethel, which still stands today as a church, because they couldn't be part of. So we're going to do something similar to what they did. They have a different rhetoric. It's called the AME, the African Methodist Episcopal Church.
Mm-hmm.
They started in 1802. St. Paul's downtown was started by Absalom Jones. But y'all didn't know that. If you live here in Flint, Michigan, or if you come down through Flint, Michigan, right there on Saginaw Street, was dedicated. He laid the first stone. He laid the cornerstone. Only the Masons laid the cornerstone. And he blessed the beginnings of the church. And when it was finally built, he traveled from Philadelphia. Absalom Jones.
That's a history lesson for
That's a history lesson for y'all. Okay. So now when we could no longer be part of these or tried to be part of these fraternal orders, like I said, Prince Hall started Prince Hall Masons.
Mm-hmm.
You get kicked out of the church, white church, and then you start a black church, right? And then you, of course, you're using it to do things to advance the race, period. Big Mama Bethel was important when they had the yellow fever epidemic in Philadelphia, where over 4,000 people died. And because African people there were immune to it, only 6 people died because of overexposure. 8 nurses died because of overexposure. Because the nurses understood and knew what the medicine was to solve it, and they saved Philadelphia from being wiped out in the 1800s. These men start an organization, the very first one, Sigma Pi Phi, in 1904, as a way to, because they weren't allowed to be in with right orders, so they started a business order.
Mm-hmm.
It's about business. It wasn't about the business that Dr. Du Bois thought it was supposed to be about either. Which the more I read about that, I got it. And I was on this bandwagon a couple months ago. Now the flag ain't flying so hard. But go ahead.
I get it. But let me get to this.
Go ahead.
I got that.
Boule is actually an acronym. It's a Sigma Pi Phi. Sigma Pi Phi, 1904 in Philadelphia. And for most of our people, we are not prepped to the responsibility of secret society in the American society. Mm-hmm. And this founding constitution, this illegal criminal enterprise, was a Masonic affair. Mm. And a Masonry is a form of secret society. There are other well-known secret societies like Skull and Bones at Yale, of which this corrupt president and his father were members of. And it is that society that the black society modeled itself after. Mm-hmm. So when they wrote their first history book, The History of Sigma Pi Phi, by a very noted black author, university president Charles Wesley, who wrote the history book for the Elks, the Prince Hall Masons, National Council of Negro Women, Alpha Phi Alpha, and Sigma Pi Phi. And as a result, in there, in page 28 of its first history book, it noted that it wanted to be like Skull and Bones at Yale.
Mm-hmm.
It was right here in Los Angeles at the Good Life on a Friday night. If you remember this time, the NAACP had a convention here, and LeGrand Klieg and Marla Gibbs were accused of making inflammatory statements.
Working with Dr. Graham's book, The Mannequin Leitmotif.
Yes, that weekend, the Boule was meeting here, July of 1990. They were having their twice every other year convention, biannual. And it was a front page article in the LA Times by Karen Grigsby Gates, who denoted that these elite black men were meeting in Los Angeles at this time. That was the first. I remember sending someone to the car to bring it in, and we read it from the stage of the Boule on July 18th, the day the story appeared, front page LA Times. And I thought it was unusual that the LA Times knew of this society, and I didn't know of them. Now, for our audience to understand, I'm starting off trying to explain to black people the impact of international policy groups like the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations, when the bankers began to take over the American cities in the 70s. New York today.
Oh, crap. I messed that up.
Society, inflammatory statements.
Okay, can you explain what the Trilateral Commission is? That's what I was really stopping the phone.
All right. Now, remember what we said earlier, right? At the very beginning. The Knights Templar made money off of their duties, even though they took a vow of poverty. That don't mean we couldn't make no money for our future. So you have the Trilateral Commission, you have the Rothschild, you have the Bilderbergs, you have all of these groups of people who are desiring to control, right, how money moves, how things happen. Okay. The start of, let me go back and then I'm going to, because there's pieces to this that we need to know. The start of the First World War happened because of the Bolshevik Revolution. The Bolshevik Revolution, there was a king in Austria who was coup d'etat. He was assassinated.
Damn.
Right. All because somebody set up some propaganda in order to get rid of him. That was the first shots of the First World War. Word is the Trilateral Commission and some of these other families set it up so that no matter what, both sides, these families play both sides. So let's be clear. They're just not going to go like, oh, well, we're going to support one side and then if they lose, then we lose money.
Yeah, because people forget Prescott Bush. You heard of that name,
yeah,
you?
Absolutely.
That's Granddaddy Bush.
That's Granddaddy Bush.
You know, he funded both sides of the war in World War One or Two. I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
one. He funded both sides.
Yeah. Okay. So when we look at what the Trilateral Commission's position is, it's about creating a new world order where there's almost one currency, and they have their hands in manipulating. So they have their hands in manipulating war situations or whatever, because now these quote unquote third world countries, these third world countries need money. So the International Monetary Fund becomes important. The Trilateral Commission was founded, according to some sources, in 1973. But what did we say earlier? The Knights Templar's money is still running around here. And at this point, it's got to be billions of dollars. You're talking about almost 1,000 years of that money circulating. And especially if you have some of the knights that go underground and then they marry and they train their children and they put their children in these situations so that they can continue to build these funds, right? So now when we have these organizations that we create, well, you're a businessman. You're this, you're that. We'll make you a businessman. So the Psi Sigma Pi Rho is nothing but business. The first 6 founders, 4 of them were physicians, 1 was a pharmacist, and 1 was a banker. So they only want people at this high level.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we go back to what the talent and 10th was supposed to be, and we talked about this before, so here are the connections that we crossed both shows. The talent and 10th, it was the idea that what Dr. W.B. Du Bois said was these few people, the 10% of the population, can sit here and they can help raise the 90% of the population that are in ignorance up out of their ignorance.
Facts.
That was his point. Continue.
I got you.
When the bankers began to take over the American cities in the 70s, but the LA Times knew of this society, and I didn't know of them. Now, for our audience to understand, I'm starting off trying to explain to black people the impact of international policy groups like the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations, when the bankers began to take over the American cities in the 70s, New York 75, Cleveland 77, Chicago 79, and here in California, they used Proposition 13 to suck up the surplus out the budget, and bankers began to take over from municipalities the governing of the cities. Mm-hmm. And as I was scratching, I could not figure out how was there such black complicity in this centralization of worldwide power, the New World Order.
Yeah,
it's on the dollar bill pyramid by white men who never built one, never saw one, but they emulated this symbol. And now comes a series of societies, and now comes forth this black one in 1904. As we began to read deeper, it had another.
Oh, crap.
No, you're good. You're good. Just when you get it.
I got you. You good.
Okay. So if y'all can see this symbol on no, okay, it's okay. The symbol that was up, this one right here. Okay. Look at the features of it. You tell me where you know that comes from. It's ancient Kemetic.
Facts.
The pharaoh's head, or the sphinx's head, is female. The body of a lioness, the head of a woman, called the myrrh. Not a sphinx. It's called a myrrh. Okay. So remember what he just said was how cities were taken out of municipalities on purpose. Because Flint at what time was a municipality up until the early 70s. So it's every other city, not just the big ones, all of them. It was called the Municipal City of Flint. Okay.
Presidents are primarily coming out of this. Denoted that W.E.B. Du Bois was a book. That the analogy that looked happenstantial in the story in the LA Times was actually deeper in the actual history book, where they drew attention to Skull and Bones. It denoted that W.E.B. Du Bois was a member, and it began to describe people, influential people in the present-day society, and historically, our university, historically black college presidents are primarily coming out of this, advisors to the king. And that word, that Boule word, can be looked up in a encyclopedia. Well, now people don't use them, they use internet. And that's a dangerous thing, a dangerous dependency. But Boule, B-O-U-L-E, the Greek version. There's a French version that's a coming together, a conclave, the AKA called their convention, the Boule. But the Greek word is what we're looking for, the advisors to the king. The lower house of the Greek parliament is called Boule. And if you know the American congressional system, Senate, 6 years, more power, authority, only 100. 2 per state. Congress, 435, have to run every 2 years. Your lower house has less power and authority. So it appears as if, in finding the Boule, that within it was a subordination to something else. And in its history book, it drew attention. Here's a logo. And this is their logo is a Grecian sphinx. It's an animal. And this Grecian sphinx is similar to a griffin or a gargoyle. Kind of ironically, the Boule had their convention in Los Angeles in 1941. And where else? Griffin Park. And this logo, this symbol, is a guardian animal.
Right.
This would be similar to a Rottweiler or a dog or a German Shepherd. They tend to protect something higher than itself.
Let me ask you a question. I went to Howard University, for instance.
Nah,
There
they
are a
trying to
number of
break down the different
African
fraternities.
so-called Greek societies, fraternities, as well as in our community, there's a number of secret, semi-secret organizations. How is the Boule different than the numerous fraternities and groups in our community? What is the relationship to the ruling class?
Father, son. The nine make up the axis of the Black Greek dynasty. There are 4 male societies, 4 female societies, and the Boule make the 9th one. They're the first, 1904 series, the Alphas. I'm not versed in the exact order, but I have all of their history books, and each of them draw attention to things where they got their ritual from. The Deltas draw attention to Freemasonry. Said our ritual came from Mary Church Terrell, whose husband, Robert Terrell, was head of the Masonic Lodge in Washington, D.C. Mary Church Terrell, Mary Church, is the daughter of the first black millionaire in America, Robert Church of Memphis, Tennessee. Huge mausoleum to him there. Those societies, those 4 male, those 4 female, and the Boule tend to make up a aristocracy. We talked in the park about the 10%, not in the sense of us in exclusivity, but them in the terms of deputizing 10% of the population to assure that the 90% never catch on.
There we go.
And it's very important to know that if you look to Alpha Phi Alpha website, there's alphas, kappas, Qs, and Phi Beta Sigma. There's Zeta Phi Beta, Delta Sigma Theta, AKA, and Delta.
There you go. My bad.
Oh, bro. So understand this. So then what's the propaganda that goes on top of that? Well, you see, they made it.
Right.
It used to be that you had to know something in order to be successful.
Right.
Now is who you know. And are you willing to get in the club? And I'm not saying that there not be some good things in the club. But for me, as a person who's been out here working behind the scene, whatever you want to call it, it's how come we can't have everybody have the opportunity to be successful?
Right.
Instead of it being, I'm only going to pick and choose a few. And then when they talk about and nationally or internationally, it's talking about we can't understand the reason why they're not successful when you can see that this 10% is, but there's 90% of the population. So if we have 47 million, let's say 50 million to make the numbers easy for you.
Okay.
So we have 50 million African American people in the country, and 5 million are successful because we let them in and they're part of groups.
Right.
Then what's wrong with the 45 million? Well, the 45 million are controlled by some other ideology.
Facts.
So you're not letting them in. Okay. And I'm not opposed to groups having, because we got a couple brother around here that he's the alpha and he does stuff with the young people. I see him doing it all the time.
Right.
But how come it's not all young people? How come every young person? You have to if you're being selective, that's unfair to the other person. That's like that same stupid notion as an educator. Well, if you save only one, no, give everybody an opportunity. Choose not to. If they wash out, they wash out because they weren't meant to be. But you give them all an opportunity to open the door.
But that's what is so crazy with this, that it go back to this, because you can start looking at the different colleges when they came about, and you will see. That's why when we go look at the Congressional Black Caucus,
right?
Why we look at them as they really not doing nothing. When you go look at the NAACP, you looking at the injustices that's going on. It's impossible. But now we do get understandings why certain people don't. Facts, unfortunately, a lot of pastors are Freemasons. Yes, they are. But this is what is so crazy with Freemason, that the story that they go on, you got to walk over the burning sand. That was not us. That was not us being led out, being stripped.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Of the knowledge of what was going on. It was some people who was marched across the burning sand.
Right.
And I truly believe them was our ancestors that was marching on people when they stripped them.
Right.
But that was, when you looking at, when they talking about Bliss buried in the shadow grave, who you think they talking about? I mean, but this is free. That's the only thing. Like I said, I got uncles that's in it. I'll be battling with them all the time. You know, certain people, I battles with them all the time because it's like I remember this one guy, I ain't gonna mention his name, but he around here. When he tell you don't know what 33 degrees of knowledge I got, but I'm like, damn, but if it's 360, you missing a whole lot.
See, here's the part of the problem with that. 360 is a whole circle, right?
Right.
Okay. So, going back to ancient Kemet.
Mm-hmm.
You can only get 300. Let's add a 0 to that.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got 330 degrees. And the only time you can get those last 30 degrees is when you die. And you come back to where you come from. The Uchat, the eye, what they call the eye of Horus or eye of Haru or whatever, it's each part is a fractional part. And the only part that's missing when you add each fractional part up is 1/64th of it is missing. And that's only when you complete your journey do you get that 1/64th. All right. So now with these organizations, right, most of them are based upon Kemetic ideology, whether they know it or not. So even if we look at the symbol that we just saw a few minutes ago, right, with the somebody says it's a Sphinx.
Yeah.
The Guardian. The Guardian, if you go look at where the pyramids are, in the myrrh that sits in front of it, it's the Guardian. No, what is it guarding? I don't know. Every society has a set of guardians. The issue that we're talking about, that Brother Coakley's talking about, that we talk about, is those guardians are not being protectors, because that's what a guardian does.
Facts.
The guardian's a protector. The guardian's not one that takes advantage of people.
Yeah, you right about that.
Okay, that's what they do. So most of these organizations were created because they couldn't get into white organizations. Wilberforce, which is just down the road, was a college that was created before it became HBCU. It was named after the church from England, and one of the persons over there that was an abolitionist. And then black people bought it and turned it into an HBCU. Fraternal orders have something that they're protecting. And they're gatekeepers for a reason. The unfortunate part that happens with us is, and I could be wrong, is that are you going to be the person that, if you part of the organization, are you going to be out there saying, hey, we're going to go and help everybody? Because all humanity needs our help, everybody's help.
Facts. You ready for me to play the last part? Okay, let me get the last part.
Somebody, Sigma Gamma Rho. If you look to, say, the Alpha website, they brag about being 95% of all black lawyers. Now, if the Alphas are 95% of the black lawyers, what does that leave the Kappas, the Qs? Okay, now we're in the 90s. They claim to be 65% of the black accountants, the lawyers, the doctors, dominating. And it may be that our professions are dominated by people in the Greek societies. At Howard, there was a student that I tried to help get a doctorate in engineering. Very exclusive about giving them out. If you get one, you're set for life. Morgan State, Howard are very exclusive. Took big money from governments to make engineers, but the brothers weren't coming out. And when we got deeply involved, we found how close-knit, how selective the professional process is. So he ended up at the patent office. He was a Kappa. He said, we have 15 blacks, 1 female, 14 brothers, and all 14 of us are Kappas. Only Kappa's going to get in here. And there are jobs all over where we think we're applying for something fair and open. But I would suggest that the ruling class recognize this was a very significant period, D-Don, when they decided that they would give a college degree to a person of African ancestry in America who, after Reconstruction, should have been pretty pissed off. And so,
yeah, that was the end of it. We'll come back. I'll get the other one on the next one. But you see the people, Bill Cosby, you see all the different people, Jesse Jackson. I mean, W.E.B. Du Bois. You had,
oh my God,
man,
Earl
you got
Graves.
Yeah. you know who walked Clinton into his first Bilderberg meeting?
Go ahead.
Vernon Jordan.
Vernon Jordan. Wow.
Vernon Jordan. People better realize who Vernon Jordan was.
Right. Right.
No, this is and this what people forget on this. Do you know? But what do water freeze at? Ain't it at 32 degrees? 32 degrees where water freeze at. And I see when they say you got to be at 32 degrees to be a Freemason to become a Shriner. Right. That's just enough to freeze.
Right. But
who
you freezing out?
Right. But do you know when they will get to there, they get a Quran at the end? See, the Mason's not telling you that. When they do, they get a Quran at the end. They don't even want to tell you that Prophet Muhammad, pieces of blessings upon him. Don't you know they got a robust of him in the White? I don't know if it's in the White House, probably the what is it, the National Congress. Man, they have to build all this. People don't understand, man, what America, how this thing got set up.
George Washington was a Mason.
Facts. I'm gonna tell you what movie you gotta go watch. Go watch Rosewood. And see when my man, what Brother Elliott was trying to tell y'all, when he said, remember when the white guy came, when he had raped the lady, he was like, he showed his ring, I'm a Mason. Remember the older one said, man, we Prince Paul Masons. Right. He said, we not part of their lodge.
Right, that's it.
Go watch that movie and that'll tell you a lot. Remember, and the white boy used them. Yeah. He used them for them to help and look all the hate that came with them. Right. See, a lot of people not you got a concept on really what's going on.
Right.
And and that's why I believe, even with voodoo, we would think people, listen, coming up as a kid until I woke up and started understanding, even though I don't, but they would have you thinking voodoo was a devil's religion.
Do you know the reason why? Because when you defeat somebody that I'm related to, it's a problem. And when you use that power to beat somebody that I'm related to, that I have their people here in this country, it's a problem. So then what, instead of America, like, okay, again, the Dominican Republic and Haiti occupy the same land.
Same.
Why does Haiti going through all the hell it's going through in the Dominican Republic? You can go over there and fly, all this other stuff, not a problem.
Right. But they also, too, Brother B, they also have a sword.
Yeah, you right. Yeah, they have two swords and the shield on there.
Yeah, they have a sword on theirs. But see, this is the stuff that they're going, but they're not going to tell y'all. That's why they're not going to tell y'all they studying, they get a Quran at the end. Mm-hmm. That's like most of your pastors who are in Freemason, when they get to that 30s, they get to that 30, they get to their 33 or 32 degree, they get a Mason. I mean, they get a Quran, but they're not going to tell y'all that they get a Quran.
Well, it all comes from the same source.
Right. But they're not going to tell you they get that though.
Right.
I think what's just been, like I say, to the victors goes the spoils.
Right.
So what you looking at, you like they say history, we looking at history.
Right.
Because if you're gonna give real history, I don't want people to be thinking that's the stuff that they came. Do not think when they came and got them African slaves when they brought over here, them were not idiots that they brought over here.
You brought scientists and
you better wake
all
up.
All of these other people that created everything and built everything else. And the only reason why you have the so-called lower level people is you wasn't in 1808, and I mentioned this before, 1808, they now know on the continent we can beat them because we beat the French. So therefore, what do? We grow the population and control it and do with it what we will.
Right.
But you got to bright people who knew the seasons better than anybody else, knew the soil better than everybody else, knew smithing better than everybody else. They were all scientists and people knew medicine better than everybody else. And that here's the sad part for us is that gene is still within us. But because we get all of this other stuff that we have put in front of us, we want to sit around there and act like we can't do. We don't want to do anything but entertainment and play sports.
Yeah, because it's in you. You are creators of civilization. Listen, man. Listen through all the BS. Look. What's my
like
man?
that, Raphael.
Yeah, because that's what it's. That's what it really means. That's what it do mean.
That's exactly what it
they
means.
call them sons, Muslim sons.
Yeah, either that, you take your head off or cut your tongue out. One or two, but you better not open your mouth.
You're right. That is to keep it. That's like if you really go down in it. That's why I'm like, if you really go study, that's what I'm saying. Study is the best teacher. History is the best reward because you can really see what's going on.
Right.
Like I say, because you even in that TikTok where you get to see, I want to say I don't want to misquote it when they said how was W.E.B. Du Bois them doing the time. No, but I still. But without them brothers, we wouldn't be here.
No, absolutely.
See, them brothers, they defied the system and wanted to create they was trying to create something, but they was like Toussaint over to Latour. When you've been so trained, they still wanted to be a part of the system. That's like how he got tricked up when you doing negotiating with these people. That's not some people is non-negotiable.
Right.
You cannot do no negotiation. See, I think what we got stuck at because we look at all the things that they tore down. That don't mean we wasn't here for when they bombed Tulsa, Oklahoma. Right. We wasn't here when they did that with Rosewood, but that don't mean we supposed to stop.
Right. No,
you know what I'm saying?
What we done is we become afraid anymore, and we want to run behind something.
Yeah.
So we can continue to be gatekeepers instead of open a gate.
And that's the problem with our black. In the history of time, this the most blacks that it didn't have. But why you can't get Jay-Z or Bill Cosby and all of them to go open up these plants here? You don't think they can put their money together and have much money as Ashley Capital them?
Yeah,
but see, you even with these clubs, these basketball players, all that money they get from the NBA, they're gonna go drop $40,000 in a strip club. Who is that helping? We don't even own the strip clubs where they dropping this money at. Buying Louis Vuitton. Do you know what LeBron, even with like people gave LeVar Ball problems, but what LeVar Ball was trying to do, he was trying to create generational wealth and didn't nobody see. They just overblew that. Right. You know what I'm saying? But when Peyton Manning daddy can do it, Elway daddy can do it, right. Jack Elway, people keep forgetting when they can do this, then when it comes to us, we can't do it.
Right. Well,
you can't challenge the system.
Right. You see what happened to Deion Sanders, son?
Right. He tried to play the same game.
Right. And lost.
They said, who is the great architect? Let me see what Brother B said. Who is the great architect they talk about in Freemason? It's not the God of the Bible.
There's only one architect, no matter how it's described, no matter how people want to twist the story up.
Who is it, Brother B? But I'm just saying, but these are the things that we have to go and study. You have to go look up. Like I said, we're going to get on this because it's some more things that he was talking about. And that brother did wrong, Steve Copeland. Dude, when you...
That's my guy. I met him a couple times.
And listen, brother, that's why we together. Because I need that. But I'm saying, because them people I would love to meet, man. Like them people, like when you go look at... I can't wait till we do the men who killed... what's his name? MLK. When you go putting these down, when you go seeing Jesse Jackson, when you go see how this thing is set up, that's why you see the same ones. Why you think you got Al Sharpton?
Well, they put, see, I said this before. If people are going to be servants, you serve people and not yourself. Right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to be a servant, you're about serving people.
Mm-hmm.
You're not about serving yourself. And so even in the creation of these organizations, somewhere along the line, the ideology of what is truth was supposed to be got corrupted.
Facts.
So if they created Sigma Pi Phi to help develop businessmen and they're expand their business, how did they get corrupted to become a gatekeeper? And there's all of them.
Yeah.
Because there are 4 male or men fraternities and 4 female fraternities with Sigma pi rho or pi phi in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
That's your 9.
Divine 9.
That's your divine 9.
Who raised 80 million for the Vice President Kamala Harris?
AKAs in 24 hours.
80 million.
And they were the forefront of doing that. And then I've seen people get upset that she didn't get elected. She was the best option. But why would you forget what country we live in?
And it was not going to elect no woman. That was the thing.
And a black woman at that? No matter who she slept with. Who her husband is.
Regardless of what you say, she had melanin in her. We'll go with that. She had melanin. Because she had melanin. She was not going to be elected. Only we fell for that.
Oh, yeah. Well, because, we wanted to have another Obama moment.
Yeah, I mean, but they thought, but if you go look at Obama, I remember somebody just put it up here and said, do you know these people are all connected with each other? All the presidents, all them people.
They go through. Obama went through the skull and crossbones too.
And I think he's some kin to the Bushes.
Right. That's what
somebody just put it in here. Said his grandfather was one of his was the grandfather of one of his people.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. People like you got to understand how you think Al Sharpton got up in this. Now you see how they bringing Jamal Bryant in.
Right.
They using Jesse Jackson. They said who you vote for, Kamala. But listen. We've been so they tease me about they tease me but it's the truth. All these people are connected. That's why they going through this, tripping off this what is it? Birthright?
Right, birthright.
Birthright citizenship. Yeah. Go back and do the history what that started from. Because I just heard today that not Obama, I was finna lie on him. Trump just lifted the thing far as Haitians.
Right.
Far as they can be deported now.
Right.
But guess who sat up there and voted for him?
Right.
Like, but that's what I'm saying. All these people is mad, but look at all the stuff that's going on with these conspiracy. But our people is playing along right with it. Go ahead.
And that's the issue, right? That's the issue. So it changed from helping the first fraternity so that we can continue to help develop businesses among professionals.
Right.
To now you're doing something else. And now you become something else. And the thing is if your something else is not advancing the whole race, which was the whole idea in the first place,
facts,
it's problematic. Now you're only concerned about you and what you can get. How did that change? Where did that change? And it changed somewhere along. There you go.
Facts.
It changed somewhere. There you go. That's it right there. It changed somewhere because somebody might have said, I can get you a few more dollars than somebody else. But I need you to vote for me this way. Because you got to understand, there's no organization that we have that some way, shape, or form that they don't have an ear inside of it.
Facts. Go look who started our colleges.
Most of the colleges were started by white men who had black children with enslaved women, and they didn't want them to be on the plantation, so they started colleges that they could send them away to, so they didn't have to be on. I just say it, Wilberforce.
They ain't listening to you.
I hear them. That's okay.
They ain't listening to you.
Yeah.
Don't be mad at us.
I ain't mad. They
better not be mad at us.
Wilberforce was in England, and he was a abolitionist. And he started a college here, and when it went bankrupt, black people bought it, kept the name, and it was bought through a church, and kept the name. But the exclusivity is the issue.
Facts. Because ain't the black colleges hurting?
And they shouldn't be hurting if you got 47 million African people here in America, and if you send your kids to those colleges, you ain't got to worry about what the government don't do. You support it yourself.
Then you raise 80 million in 24 hours?
Boy, we still ain't got a dime of that money. And I've been talking about that money since it happened.
And you couldn't send none of that to the colleges?
You couldn't send none of that here to ATN News Media Group.
You know they ain't doing. We ain't part of this. We ain't part of the real system.
We ain't part of the group.
Yeah, we ain't part of that real system. Because just think about it, how the Baptist Church took that 300,000 from Target. I don't know if it's Baptist. I might get it, but we know one of the religious sectors of the black groups took that 300,000. How was that gonna help? And they got over 30-some thousand members. It came down, if they split it amongst the 30-some thousand churches that they got, it'd be 9,000 each church would get.
But yet at the end of last year, you deposited $420 billion in banks.
See what I'm saying?
And not one of them was black.
See what I'm saying? We don't even, but that's the craziness. All these blacks that we got with this money, but can't none of them get together to build something for their own.
Yep.
But we still, and that's what it is. Like where they done took this at is because what is they protecting? We're gonna get to what they protecting.
Right. Well,
we're gonna get down what they protecting. It looked like a system to me they holding.
It's definitely a system that they holding up, and this other systems are part of the system that they're holding up.
Yeah, that's even with the sports. Take these brothers from these colleges and let's go see who gonna go see them play. We can go there to play sports,
right.
Run, catch. You can teach your dog that,
right?
But when it come time to build something in your own community, they got something for you with that. Brother B, he might have did, but why is the black universities in dire need that they are, these black colleges?
Yeah, but what did he do that for? You got what's the underlying reason why he did that?
Because I would like to know.
Because the underlying reason why is I'm your savior.
Right, and he didn't let the other ones do it.
Yeah, nobody, I'm your savior, so I'm gonna give you some money so you can stay in business.
And you had all these Democratic presidents that came in.
And you had people what was the one brother who went to, was it Morehouse? And he was a keynote speaker, a tech billionaire, and he wiped out every graduate's debt.
And then they got in trouble for it.
He got in trouble for it because people was upset because somebody wanted to, he paid all of the students.
Yeah, at Howard.
But it was Howard, thank you.
Yep, Howard.
Okay, but what's the problem? Because you ain't making no money off the interest.
Right, they not in debt.
And they know these kids are walking away with their degrees debt-free.
And they didn't want that.
Okay, so now when we go back to the money that was set up by the Knights Templar,
back to them,
and all of these other trilateral commissions and Bilderbergs and Rothschilds and all of these other people, that money's all linked in there together.
And they don't know your presidents come out of them cliques.
They have to. Yeah. They're chosen.
Yeah.
That's the reason why independent people called H. Ross Perot, what's the one that just Bernie Sanders, you ain't gonna you might get some votes because you got the radical element to say, I hear what you're talking about. H. Ross Perot, when he was alive, he was the head of a company that was part of GM and he bought used aircraft. I don't remember what it is. It was back in the 80s.
Perot was talking it though.
Yeah, but he said, I only need $1 a year from I'm a billionaire. Fact. I only need $1 a year from the people just for tax purposes. I don't need no money. Why wouldn't they vote for him? Why wouldn't we put him in office? You put him in office because then he's somebody we can't control. So he's going to run it like a business. He took a business that was failing and turned it back into a multi-billion-dollar corporation. That's what I just said. Selected, not elected.
Yeah, they better wake up. Like these presidents are it's a bloodline. When when they say blue lines, blue bloods. Blue bloods.
Yep. Somewhere along in there, they all connected. Absolutely. Even if they're not related through the bloodline, if you go to certain schools, you related in fraternity or sorority.
John Kerry and Bush was skulls and bones.
So
I'm junior. Yeah. Went to Harvard. See, that's what these people don't understand. This is a clique. This thing they got set up, they're gonna have their gatekeepers.
Okay, so now how does that we'll get to that the next time.
Yeah, we'll get to that the next time.
Now, let me make this statement to the sisters, and I see I haven't had. Um, we're not talking about us. We've got enough disjointed disunity in our community. What I'm saying is, y'all buying the new Trump cologne, girl. You funny. What I'm saying is, there are certain things that, like, if y'all go on a girls' trip, can I go? And I want to come hang out with y'all. Everything y'all do, I want to go. But no, it's a girls' trip. It ain't for me. You can't go. So we take a men's trip, or I'm gonna say women's trip. I don't want to say girls' trip, y'all, even though y'all call it that. If we take a men's trip, where y'all going? Well, we're gonna go and be hanging out with the fellas. If y'all take a women's trip, we go like, okay, well, and we don't ask y'all what y'all did because it's not our business. There are certain things that are not our business.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain things that are not their business. There are certain things that are not children's business. And that's all I'm saying about that. I'm not saying be in the kitchen because I like to cook. I ain't gonna hold it up. I get down. Sometimes I don't want nobody in my kitchen. Stay out. No, I got it. I'm gonna cook today.
Facts.
You know. But that's all I'm saying about that. So
Yeah.
don't take it in any. Don't take. Hey, if that cologne come with some billions attached to it, I'll go buy it.
That's why he don't, because the money that he making, Trump got to see the money. And the ones behind him let him go ahead and say we'll get to push our agenda through. He didn't care. He just wanted to be king. And they told him, we'll let you be king. That's why this thing told no king. Listen, they allowed this to go down. And when I feel like that's a distraction, because if did Trump stop anything that he said he was going to do?
Oh, distract.
Yeah, but stop. Did he stop that he wasn't going to do no wars? Then said he wasn't going to cut the past one of the biggest budgets that it helped the man. Good man.
Right. So therefore, the people do have to get their cut. Right? That they have to get their cut.
Mm-hmm. That's why you're gonna run into problems. Ain't no big thing. If they start this simple, and then I'm with that. You just check it out for yourself. I'm going back to LeVar Ball. You know why? They don't want. Why you think all the colleges come out? I mean, these boys coming out of college, they getting them right out of high school, giving them shoe contracts. Why you think? Do you think Jordan needed to sign a deal with Nike? He couldn't go on his own. He said, "Oh, read your. I got you, little mama. Let me read a comment right quick." She said, "Skulls and bones, when they were made to lay in a coffin and masked, bait, and tell their secrets. Yeah, now they have to do some freaky deaky stuff. I'm telling you." And they have to tell a secret that nobody don't. Did you, man? The movie was called what was the movie with Robert De Niro and what's the other guy? It was about how the FBI started in the CIA. It was really doing World War. Along Came a Sheep. Yeah, it was called, but Matt Damon was in it. And when he got up in there, because he was at Yale, and his father was an admiral. It was something he did. He ended up committing suicide, and he left a note to his son. But his son ended up burning it up.
Right.
But and how they started it, man, it was about skulls and bones. But how they had it in the movie, they had to get in this mud stuff and roll around. Yep. And when they was peeing on them. And remember, Matt Damon got mad and got up, said, "I'm not finna do this." But they was trying to hold a secret on his daddy. Like, we know what your daddy, man, they was showing, it went up to Fidel Castro. Not Fidel, yeah, it was. It was Fidel, because it was John F. Kennedy when they was, they made the movie, but I think it was in the 20s, and it went up there to John F. Kennedy. But it was showing like how the FBI and the CIA started. But to me, it didn't go deep enough. But if you go watch it, it was giving you a little glimpse on skulls and bones, but it was showing you that they was in colleges now. Right. These was your admirals, these was your generals.
Yeah, you had to,
you know what I'm saying? Your presidents, your senators, your congressmen. Yep. Yeah, they put it right in. I can't think of the name of that movie, but I know it was Matt Damon.
Robert De Niro.
Yeah, Robert De Niro. Because remember, Robert De Niro ended up dying. He was an admiral, and this one they was fighting. When you go look at that book, see, what's up, Lumi? I love to watch them type of stories because they, like I said, they put it in plain sight. And it came out during when John Kerry and Bush was running. When he was challenging Bush, and they was talking about them being in skulls and bones. But see, they played it down like it wasn't nothing. Like how Steve Coakley was saying, you know, when you say Boule, they try to downplay it.
The Good Shepherd.
The Good Shepherd. Go check out The Good Shepherd, and y'all gonna see.
2006 film. It's called The Good Shepherd.
Go check out The Good Shepherd, man. That was a deep movie, and you got to see how things were set up, but they had been playing games. It showed you back then when they went to the mob. When one man be talking to Joe Pesci, when he say, "This is my country,"
right?
But y'all had to come to us, and they was holding something over his head.
Yeah. Well, see, and that's the thing. It's always about either you got to tell a secret or you got to do
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to tell me a secret so we can hold it over your head. So it's called The Good Shepherd.
Yeah,
yes.
The Good.
Yeah, it came out in 2006.
Man, you got to go check it out. That's it. That man, them type of movies I love to go watch. I'm very into my history. You go look. Like I be watching documentaries when I be at home, man. That's how I be coming across a lot of this stuff. Like it's we gonna do something with this Conspiracy Tuesday, man. We gonna
just lay the foundation for how things gonna roll.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it was, Maria.
So it's called Skull and Bone.
Yeah, it's the same one. But when you go see it, man, they be putting the stuff right out there, and you see how they started. When all this stuff was started, that's what I'm saying. If you go back and study Abraham Lincoln, don't even know he was racist, but you what he was saying, go look at who he was getting. Like he said, he was fighting in the South, but he said them bankers that was coming up the rear.
Okay, so wait a minute now. What did we say that the Knights Templar started?
Bank.
Okay, they started a very sophisticated financial system that was international. So just understand that this money run through everything.
Facts.
I would even say, and I could be wrong, that the financing of the transatlantic slave trade and the Islamic slave trade has something to do with their money. Because if you're a job, your idea in 1323 is to destroy them, and in 1441 you write a papal bull from the Pope that says we can enslave these people, where you get the money from to do
it. And I'm gonna go a little deeper with that. Go look at all the trading posts and see what's your trading posts in the United States where they buy plantations.
The first trading post is in New York.
And go see who was owning them.
Oh boy.
Now you really gonna get off into it. Go look what family own or what race of people own these trading posts. Right. Now you're gonna get down to it. Then you're gonna uncover who your clan was first. Mm-hmm. Your clansman. You're gonna go to see who you're gonna start going to see who this is. That's what I'm telling you. Go sit back when you know what I'm saying? Because we also gonna get to, like I say, we gonna finish this Boule. Hopefully we can get it done in the next couple of weeks. But then you're gonna start seeing, and I'm gonna see what Brother Elliott do. He wanna go toward far as the men who killed MLK. Oh, like we gonna go through a lot of this stuff.
Anybody, Trevor, you former military, bro, send us some stuff. From head to toe, I don't want to leave nothing open because we getting ready to have. We gonna need it.
We finna get off into this, man. Because I thank you for even coming, sitting down to do this. For we finna get off into this. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, Brother Elliott. I think, and I got to give a shout out to Sister Muhammad for even linking us up, Sister Audrey, because this right here, I think we're gonna, like I said, this is just the first one. We're gonna. To it, but I do want to get off because we can start giving what gatekeeping is. See, sometimes people don't be understanding what, like, you had the haves and the have not. It's a true reason for that.
And so we have to understand that sometimes even the gatekeeper, most gatekeepers stand outside of the gate and are not part of the house.
Right.
They're just standing at the gate. Okay, I got another puppy, so I'm hoping my daughters don't hear it and get in trouble. But his job is to be a gatekeeper.
Facts.
Even if he's inside the house, it's to guard the door. You don't let nothing come in here they ain't supposed to. That's his job. That don't mean he inside the house and make decisions in the house. So even if people are not fraternally related or sororitorily related, that don't mean they're not gatekeepers. They got to play a position.
Right.
So on the chessboard, what's the first pieces that get moved first? Now you can use the knight to jump over some stuff, but typically people move a pawn first.
Facts.
And if you sacrifice a pawn, you can get a stronger piece.
Facts. They don't be understanding
hey, but it's the game.
Yeah, and that's what it's like. That's what we being played the game. And when you see the ones who go against it,
yeah. Raphael Bird said he gonna be joining us. You gonna hang out with us, or we hanging out with you? Because if you got something that you talking about, well, stay tuned because we coming then.
Yeah, we gonna get off into all of it, that. Like because they be having the documentaries. I catch them on YouTube.
Right,
I'll be pulling. I'll be catching a lot of the documentaries. I used to watch the History Channel. Another good one, The Men Who Built America. That's what y'all need to go watch. Go watch that about Carnegie. I mean, I'm saying that Carnegie's and what was the ones? J.P. Steele.
Yep, the Morgans.
Man,
all of them.
When you go look at how they started this thing, even down to the bootlegging, don't you know Daddy Kennedy was a bootlegger?
Man, he was a bootlegger, and that's how he made his money.
They don't understand. See, people keep forgetting. I know we off the blocks, we at the end. People keep forgetting it wasn't John F. Kennedy who they wanted to run for president. Remember, it was the other brother, the one that died in the war.
John?
They had the older brother. That's the one. He died in the war.
He died in World War II.
And that's who they was That's who they was finna gear up to be the president.
Okay.
They was finna run him. Go back and
I got you.
Yeah, go back and study that. That's who they was finna gear up, but he died in the war. You go back and study how that went down, what they was finna do.
Yeah, because they put John Kennedy on the PT boat and he didn't see no action. I mean, he was out there, but it wasn't where it was super. Anytime you out in the war, something can happen. But it wasn't that it was super.
Yeah, I'm not for sure, little mama. Yeah. No, but I'm saying when you, No, little mama said, Mickey, is that the part of the Titanic that went down?
No,
I don't know.
No, the Titanic was something different. That happened in 1911, and that was because they were dumb enough not to travel through the Antarctica, and the Arctic, not pay attention to the dang on snow cones that was floating in the water.
Yeah, but it's right there. The Library of Congress. I'm telling you that when you, man, listen, it's so much stuff that they do put it in. Even these movies, if you watch them, they be giving you some wag the dog tail. Go watch that when they was showing how they created a fake war, got somebody out. Man, this stuff was so with Woody Harrelson. He was like a crazy army guy. Man, this is so.
The dog, yep.
Whack, man, when you go watch that, show you how they set these things up. You better go back and watch it.
Okay, well, so now, little mama, we're going to say this. I'm going to say a couple more things. We're going to shut it down, and then we're going to be here all night. Remember Ron Brown, who was the head of the Democratic National Congress, flying in a United States Air Force Two, and it goes down because it runs into a mountain. Okay, so if we're understanding that these people with this money play a game for real. Now, I'm going to address a couple things. My sister Maria, go back and look at the manifest of the ships. But you believe how you believe. We're talking. There you go. Okay. So that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to leave that. There are manifests of ships that talk about how. Now, if we understand the other part about that is things that crash in salt water, there's only been 3 or 4 ships, and one is the Henrietta Marie, which was in Detroit at the museum for a long time, that they found partially intact because of what happens with anything that you put in salt water. It corrodes. And it's going to fall apart. And we're talking about wooden ships. Okay. All right. Ooh, family. There's a whole lot on the plate. We got a whole lot of dots that we got to connect now.
Yeah, we're gonna put it together. 5 p.m. Lumi every Tuesday, 5 p.m.
And that was my fault for being late. I was doing some extra studying, trying to put some things together. And then I get up here and Uncle Mick throws a little curveball, which I knew was coming. And hopefully we hit it hard enough to knock it out the park.
I know, but see, I know you're gonna get the premises of it where we laid it down, but I am gonna be letting you know the clips we're gonna be putting up. If you got some clips you want to send me, just let me know the YouTube and I'll go pull it up. But yeah, but right. I've been, like I say, I want to get off into it for we can get off into, because like I say, we did enough politics. I want to get behind why the politics are why they are.
Right, and that's the reason why we have to understand stuff, right? If you're being ineffective and you're getting elected over and over and over and over and over again, you're still ineffective and nothing's changing, you know that there's something behind that in order for that to take place. There's no way as an educator that I should still be in that position over and over and over and over and over again, year after year after year after year after year after year, just because I want to be a teacher.
Send them to my messenger, Lumi, if you got some clips. To my Mickey Jordan messenger. Just send them to me. But they forgot to tell you he had a bullet in his head.
Who?
On the plane, Ryan Brown.
Well,
yeah.
Remember that one there,
yeah, go pull it up. No, he had a bullet. I'm
sure that they killed him.
And I'm gonna get right.
I'm sure that they killed him because they wasn't gonna have. There was nothing that anybody had on him. Okay, he was charismatic. He had not only the Democratic National Congress, but the Republican National Congress who was supportive of him. And he was set to become the next president. And then all of a sudden, a plane that has absolutely no fault issues crashes into a mountain.
Right, and I'm gonna go get I'm gonna get the what's name when they did the autopsy. He had a bullet in his head, in the back of his head. But that I'm gonna go pull that up when Dick Gregory they was all breaking it down. But this gonna be a part of this though. This the part of this. I got you, but we're gonna bring it up. But like I said, allegedly. But I'm just telling you. But that's supposed to be a fact that they pulled. But what the brother Elliott saying, he was coming too powerful. He was coming too powerful.
When you don't play certain games with certain groups, they'll find a way to get rid of you. They always do.
Yeah, you get too big for your britches, as the old man would say. As my granddad, too big for your britches.
You put them pants on, they not tight enough. Come on over here, let me tighten you up.
We're going to get it. You got any last words, Brother Elliott, before we shut it down?
Okay, well, go check out the movie that we was talking about. I want y'all to go do a little bit of studying on, if you want to, till the next time, on the Knights Templar and the Holy Grail, because that's the beginning of the stuff that takes place in the Catholic Church and the Church of England. So I got this other book here, which was written in 1950. Hold on a second. I had to be careful with it because it's that old. I probably have to go take it and get it rebound. It's 1950, called The History of the Modern World. And then when I did some research on the author, that part.
You got mad, huh?
Oh, I didn't get mad. He ain't alive no more.
Got you.
Not of natural causes.
Oh, wow.
Of that part.
Okay, he must have been telling some truth then.
He was telling some truth.
That's usually what happens. Right. When you tell the truth, you go, bye-bye.
Right. Okay. So thank you all very much for hanging out with us. And no, Miss Maria, sister, I love you. But if you take a girl's trip, it ain't my business what y'all do. I ain't gonna ask because that's how I am. I don't want to know. Because y'all went and had fun or whatever you did. As long as it wasn't disrespectful to you or me, if we kicking it, go and have your fun and do your thing. Ain't my job. All right. We love you. I appreciate y'all showing up for us. Streaming on Hulu. What's streaming on Hulu? Us? All right, cool. That'll work.
Oh, thank you.
The 7 Seals. Boy, that's rough. That movie's rough too. Okay.
Facts.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get into this other movie I almost told y'all about. I'm gonna do that. I'll wait. I'm gonna hold off. This is something different.
I got you.
All right, family. We appreciate you all. Have a good one until the next time. When do we see? Sunday, right?
Sunday. We're gonna be on Sunday.
We're on Sunday.
Unless we come up with emergency something.
Hey man, we gotta have an emergency show right now.
Right, for sure.
Hey, you know how we do it.
For
Because
sure.
if you call me and tell me let's go, we here.
In the building.
In the building. All right, fam. Peace.
Peace.